All right, let's talk about driveways. Specifically, concrete driveways, and the question I get asked more than almost anything else on a job site. How long is this thing actually going to last? The short answer is 30 to 50 years. That's a real number, not a brochure number. But I want to be straight with you because that range hides something important. A concrete driveway that's poured right and looked after will still be doing its job in 40 or 50 years. That same slab poured on a base nobody bothered to compact and then ignored for a decade, it can start falling apart in 15. Same material, same weather, wildly different outcome. So what makes the difference? It really comes down to three things. What happened underneath that slab before anybody poured a drop of concrete? How you handle the freeze and thaw cycle, and whether anyone ever touches the joints and the surface after the truck pulls away. Let's get into it. Here's something worth understanding right off the bat. Concrete doesn't wear out the way asphalt does. Asphalt kind of degrades all over gradually like it's tired. Concrete doesn't do that. Concrete fails at specific points. And 9 times out of 10, those points are exactly where water got in and then froze. So the biggest single factor in how long your driveway lasts isn't the concrete at all. It's the base. A properly compacted gravel base underneath keeps the slab supported evenly, and even support is what stops settling and cracking. If the ground shifts under one section, that panel has nowhere to go but down, and once it moves, it cracks. After that thickness, 4 inches is the standard for regular passenger cars. If you're parking a truck, an RV, or a trailer on it, you want 6. That's not upselling, that's just load math. Then reinforcement, rebar, or wire mesh through the slab. Now reinforcement doesn't prevent cracks. I want to be honest about that. What it does is hold a crack tight instead of letting it open up and spread across the whole panel. Control joints matter too. Those are the grooves you see cut into the surface in a grid. They're not decoration. They're telling the slab if you're going to crack here. Concrete is going to crack somewhere. Joints just make it happen on your terms. If those joints are missing or cut too shallow, the slab picks its own spot, and it usually picks somewhere ugly. Then sealing, which blocks water and chloride from soaking in. And drainage, because standing water pooling at the edges will quietly undermine that base over years. I've seen 2 driveways poured the same week, on the same street, by different crews. 10 years later, one still looks solid and the other's flaking apart. The difference was 6 inches of compacted gravel that nobody standing on the surface can see. Now let's talk about winter, because around here that's the real test. Kenosha sees somewhere around 30 to 40 freeze and thaw cycles in an average winter. Every single one of those is a small stress test on your concrete. Here's what's actually happening. Water seeps into the pores of the concrete. It freezes. And when water freezes, it expands about 9%. That expansion pushes the surface apart from the inside out. Do that a few hundred times over a few winters and you get spalling. That's the flaking you see, where the smooth top layer breaks away and exposes the rough aggregate underneath. And if you're near the lake, it's worse. Lake Michigan keeps temperatures hovering right around the freezing mark for longer stretches than you get further inland. That sounds gentler, but it's not. One long, hard, deep freeze is actually easier on concrete than weeks of hovering right at 32 degrees, thawing in the afternoon, freezing again overnight. More cycles, more damage. Which brings me to salt, and I want to clear something up here because there's a myth about this. Rock salt doesn't chemically eat your concrete. People say it does, but that's not really the mechanism. What salt actually does is 2 things. It increases the number of freeze and thaw cycles your slab goes through, and it pulls more water into the concrete. Both of those make the real problem worse. And here's the part that matters most. The first winter is the dangerous one. Brand new concrete hasn't fully cured at the surface yet. Salt thrown down that first season can cause scaling that you never fully get back. It's permanent. So for that first winter after a pour, use sand for traction. Just sand. After that, if you really need something that melts, calcium magnesium acetate is a lot gentler on your slab than rock salt. Okay, sealing. This is the cheapest thing you can possibly do to extend the life of a driveway, and it's also the thing almost everyone skips. What you want in Wisconsin is a penetrating sealer, silane or siloxane. Those soak down into the concrete and repel water from within, and they don't leave a film on top that's going to peel and look terrible in 2 years. There are film-forming acrylic sealers that leave a wet look on the surface, and they're fine, but they wear off faster. Here's the schedule that actually works. Your first seal goes on 30 days after the pour, once the concrete has properly cured. Then with a penetrating sealer, you're resealing every 2 to 3 years. If you went with a film forming acrylic, more like every 1 to 2 years. Timing-wise, early fall is your window. Pick a dry stretch when it's above 50 degrees and get it done before the first freeze. And if you're not sure whether you're due, there's a dead simple test. Pour a cup of water on the driveway. If it beads up and sits there, your sealer's still working. If it soaks right in and darkens the concrete, that sealer's gone. Time to reseal. Now joints. If I had to point at one place where driveways fail first, it's the joints. You've got control joints, which give the slab a planned place to crack. And you've got expansion joints, which separate your driveway from the garage slab, the sidewalk, and the apron at the street. Both kinds fill up over time. Debris, dirt, little weeds pushing through, and eventually water. Once water is sitting down in a joint through a Kenosha winter, freezing and expanding over and over, it starts lifting the edges of those panels and breaking them down from the side. It's slow, and then it's not. The fix is genuinely easy. Every spring, clean the joints out and refill them with a flexible polyurethane self-leveling sealant. That's a Saturday afternoon with a shop vac and a caulk gun, and it buys you years of life. Honestly, it's the best return on effort you'll find on your whole property. Now, if a crack is wider than about a 1/4 inch, or if panels have shifted so one sits higher than its neighbor, caulk isn't going to fix that. That's the point where you want somebody to actually evaluate it, because the problem isn't on top of the slab, it's underneath it. Let me run through a few habits that shorten a driveway's life, because a lot of the damage I see is self-inflicted and easy to avoid. Metal snow plow blades that gouge the surface. Switch to a plastic or rubber cutting edge. Parking heavy equipment right on the edge of the slab where there's no support underneath so it cracks under the load. Downspouts dumping water onto the concrete or right beside it, soaking the base. Point those away. Ignoring that first hairline crack, when sealing it early would have kept it hairline instead of letting it become a fault line. And skipping the first winter precautions, which we already covered. No salt, no heavy loads that first season. None of those are expensive to fix. All of them are expensive to ignore. So what should you actually expect? A well-built, well-maintained concrete driveway in southeastern Wisconsin should give you 40 years or more. You'll see some surface aging along the way. Some hairline cracking. That's normal. That's concrete being concrete. What's not normal is spalling in year 5. Panels that rock when you step on them. Cracks wide enough to fit a finger into. Those tell you there's a base or a drainage problem down there, and that's worth diagnosing before it spreads across the whole slab. If you want a straight, honest read on what your driveway has left in it, or you're thinking about replacing it and you want it built to actually last, give us a call. We're Concrete Contractors Kenosha, right here in Kenosha, Wisconsin. The number is 262-667-5367. Happy to come take a look and tell you what we see.